This is a quick tutorial to show image trace and how to make a black and white and a color image work. Okay, so we're going to start with a color image just as a demo. I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to place in that image. It's Shift Command P or Shift Control P, and I'm going to place in a Superman image that I went and got from the internet. This is just for demonstration purposes, so I'm hitting the E key, which is the transform tool, click and holding the Shift key to keep it constrained to proper proportion, and now I'm going to go into here and duplicate that image because I never image trace an original image. I always want to keep it and hide it, lock it and hide it. So now I'm going to click on the radial button for one of them, which is the top one right there, and I'm going to open up the image trace window. So we're going to go to image trace right here, and in the color image we're not going to go to 128 colors. So I'm going to go to color, and there's a range of 30, but I'm going to try about 25 on this one. So you put it on color and limited to 25, and let's trace it. So now I've created a trace of Christopher Reeve. There are some things like putting little lights back in his eyes and everything, but it's a good image trace and I like it. Now, how do you work with an image trace? You can see up here in the layer palette it says image tracing. Well, we want all these paths. So we want to go to Object, with it selected, it has to be selected, and expand. So now it's going to give us the object and the fills. Okay, it's going to expand them into normal paths. So now we have the ability to actually play with some of these shapes. I'll give you a for instance. What if I wanted to go in and take this darker shape right here, which has multiple colors throughout the piece, and make it a little bit darker, but make all of them darker? So I could go to Select Same, okay, Fill Color. And now I could simply just grab this with the color picker and make it slightly darker. And now you can see how I've actually manipulated some of those images. Okay. And that's a really cool thing to understand. Now, what you have to understand when you use image traces, everything in the image becomes a path. Like if I grab this blue and move it, you can see that it has separated from the rest. So I'll Control or Command Z back, and there's my image trace. Now I could easily go in and draw extra shapes to make the shine of his eyes work, okay? But for an image trace, that's not a bad one. So let's turn off and lock the color one. Now I'm going to click back up on the main parent reference layer and go get the snowflake that I want to show you and incorporate it into a logo design. So let's go to File, Place, and let's place in that snowflake image. It was right here. So here is the snowflake image that we're going to use. Okay, so I am going to double click it and make it into a snowflake here, and then we're going to resize. Actually, was that the one that I wanted to use? Let me go to File, Place, and I think there was a second one in here that I wanted to experiment with. So let's go to the JPEG image. No, that wasn't it. Right there. That's the JPEG. That's the JPEG of what I went and got a PNG for. And if somehow Illustrator can't import a PNG image, open it in Photoshop and convert it to a JPEG, and it will have no problem. Make sure link is on and double click this, and now we can go in and put the snowflake in there. Again, I'm going to, just for the sake of getting it larger, I'm going to get, although it's going to be vector so it doesn't matter, size doesn't matter in vector, and let's hit the E key and hold the Shift key and just make this slightly bigger. Now I'm going to put it in the center of my screen, and I'm going to duplicate the image just like I did before, lock and hide that image. Now let's go to Image Trace, which is right there. Now it's going to be a black and white image, and I'm going to leave it at 128 on the threshold, okay, because that's just the default, and let's hit Trace. Now it's made a path out of everything, but we can't see it. And there's some things I want to explain, like what a compound path is, because it's going to make a compound path. So with the snowflake selected, let's go again, same thing we did before, expand, objects and fills, and now we have a path. Now I want to put in a rectangle of just whatever color. So I'll hit the M key and put in a large rectangle. And let's just change the color to maybe a sky blue or something, just to get something here. I just want you to see something. Okay, so I'm going to put it down below the snowflakes, and you can see that image trace. I'm going to lock it too. You can see that image trace actually took even the white of the background. I'm going to click on it now, and you can see that I can move it away from the artwork. Well, this I don't need, because I want the black of the snowflake to be just the artwork. Okay, so I'm going to click on this and hit the delete key. Now I'm going to click on the interior, and you can see if you wanted that, you have it. So now it's a separate shape. Okay, but I don't want that. I'm going to hit the delete key. Okay, now all of these little shapes, I can shift click in the middle of them, and then I can hit the delete key, and I'm going to hit the delete key twice just to make sure that they're all gone. Okay, now I'm going to turn off this rectangle because I want you to see that we're going to cut this, but I want to explain something about what we're doing. So very first thing, remember I took this from a JPEG image. Now what if the edge had been pixelated and there's way too many points here? Okay, so I want to show you that Illustrator has the capability of smoothing out edges. So I'm going to leave this that big. Okay, now I'm going to go to Object, Path, and Simplify. Now in Simplify, I get a little measuring thing here. There's 281 points. Excuse me. I'm just going to drag it down a little bit, and you can see the effect that it has, how it's eliminating points on here. Okay, so I now have somewhere around 230. It's 241 points. That's fine. I'll even go down to 230. There, I like that, because it took the 2 points that were here and made them into 1 point. Just makes for an easier, smoother vector artwork. Okay, so let's hit the direct select tool and let's click away from that. Now, I have to explain something to you. When I actually try to cut this piece here, all right, it's going to make compound paths. And let me describe to you what a compound path is. See how this shape right here, when I get rid of it, this shape is actually a hole. So if I were to turn this back on and move my artwork up to that hole, you can see how that is indeed a hole. But it actually isn't. It's actually a fill of black. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I take the direct selection tool and click away, and I come into just this shape and hold Alt or Option and click on just that shape. Now I'm going to let go and just grab a point with the direct selection tool, and you can see how that is a fill of black. You can see how Illustrator, and I just want to explain something logical to you. You can't have nothing in Illustrator. Well, technically this is a nothing shape, right? Well, it's not. As I proved to you, it's a something shape. It's a positive shape. When I put it back in here, Illustrator just somehow reverses the code on a compound path. And let me explain that to you before I cut this snowflake apart. So I'm going to click on this and move it back by grabbing one of the points. I could hit the E key and do it, and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to turn off that background. Now, I'm going to move up like this and hit the L key for ellipse, and I'm going to make an ellipse like this, and then I'm going to make another ellipse right in the center like this, and I'm going to turn these two circles. So I'm going to hit the direct selection tool and marquee that shape. I want this to turn into some kind of cute letter O. So I want this interior shape, which is filled, let's call it a positive shape. Now, if I go to Object, Compound Path, and Make, it's going to immediately turn into a negative shape. So if I move it over the snowflake, you can see that it is indeed a hole. But I want you to consider that it's not a nothing, because there can't be a nothing in a computer program, right? So when I click away from it one more time, I'm in the direct selection tool, right? I'm holding Alt or Option and clicking on the center shape. Now I'm going to let go and I'm going to move it away. So you can see that indeed, when this little shape is over its parent big shape, then it's a hole. But it's not a hole, it's a negative shape. So Again, I'm going to click on the center of this and move it, and you can see what I'm talking about. Now, why am I telling you that? Because I want to cut this, and I'm going to remove the compound path from it after I cut it. Okay, but I'm going to click on the shape with the direct selection tool in the center, and I'm going to flip by clicking this little mark right there. It's the Shift X key, and you can see how I've made it into a path. Now, I'm going to put a guide right down the middle of this. So I'm going to, as close I can get to the middle without having to be totally exact, because that's fine, right about there. Now, I'm going to hit Command or Control semicolon to show my guides. Okay, I have an extra guide there and I really don't want it. So I'm going to go to View, sorry about this, Guides, and unlock my guides. I don't think I did. Sorry. Guides, and unlock my guides. And I'm going to click on that guide like this and hit the Delete key. Now, I'm going to hit the C key. So that's the scissors tool, right? So I'm going to get close on this now. And the scissors tool, after I lock up my guides again, so let's go to Guides and Lock Guides. Okay, I'm going to click right here. First, I hold the Command or Control key and activate the selection. You have to do that. Now, the C key can cut that right there. Now I cut it. Now let's do the same thing by clicking this right here with the Command or Control key down so I can see that. Let go. I'll zoom in and you can see how I can cut right on the guide. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now let's move over to the other side and cut it, because I'm going to put the logo between this. So now I cut this. Now I hold my finger on Command or Control and activate the selection, okay, and I hit the C key and cut it. Now, I want to show you something cool. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command or Control semicolon to turn off my guides. Now, I hit the A key for the direct selection tool. A beautiful part, a beautiful aspect of the direct selection tool is when I hold the Option or Alt key. It turns into the group selection tool. What does that mean? That means that if I marquee some of this shape, just some of the bottom shape, all the points turn solid. Now I'm going to show you that I can just grab it with the direct selection tool and separate it. See how cool that is? Now I'm going to put it back in position, because if I don't hold the Alt or Option key and I don't use the group tool, then some points stay hollow, and if I try to move it, then I get that weird thing happening. Okay, so I Control Z back. Again, hold Alt or Option to turn it into the group tool, marquee a portion of it, it all will turn solid. Now I can grab it, click, hold the Shift key and go straight down. Now, I am going to remove the compound path. I want to open this up and show you that it says the word once I go to the group. See how, and I have to explain something to you. Illustrator made a group when I expanded it. I don't need these two groups here. I'm actually going to pick this up and put it above that one, and that other group's just going to disappear. Didn't mean I deleted it, it just disappeared. Now I'm going to click the circle for the compound path exactly right there. And I'm going to go, I want to do something first. I'm going to, so you can see something. Okay, I'm going to flip it back to a fill. Now, these two shapes, this one here, and there's another one, and these two shapes on the bottom that I'm clicking, clicking, and clicking. You can see those. Let me grab the whole compound path again. They're going to turn into fills, because I've explained to you what a compound path is, right? So we're going to release it from the compound path. Because, why did I do that? Because the top and the bottom were one compound path. So I'm going to marquee the top by itself, and the quick key is Command 8. You can see it. It's Command or Control 8. So I'm going to hit Command or Control 8. Now I'm going to grab the bottom by itself and hit Command or Control 8. Now, do you see over here in the layer palette how now there's two separate compound paths? That's the smart way to do this. Okay, so now I've remade the compound path. And please remember, you can take the direct selection tool, hold Alt or Option and click on that center little teardrop shape right there. Let go and just grab it with the direct selection tool, and you can reposition that in there. So you can actually reposition it. But remember, it's a fill. When it's here, it's a positive fill. When it's here, it's a negative fill. right? So let me Control Z back to put it back in place. Now, my job is to, and I'm going to show you what this little line means across here, okay? I need to take the P key and join in this point, and then click the P key in that point. This will go away, okay? Because what's happening here is I have an open path, all right? If I were to flip it, you're going to see that there's no line between here and here, or between here and here. So I want to join those together. I can do it with when it's in a fill state or when it's in this state. I'll do the top like this, and then I'll do the bottom differently. I'll click this. You can see there's a half a slash on the pen tool. That means you're joining in that path. Now let's go over here. It turns into a circle. It means you're closing that path. Okay, that's cool. Now I go over here and do the same thing. I call it click and close. Cool. Now that's an actual fill. Now let's leave this one here and just do it like this. So I join in the path. Watch this go away. As soon as I click this point, it's gone because I joined this together. Now let's go over on the other side and join that together. Click and what? Wait for the circle and close. Now all I have to do is marquee everything here on the top. So hold the A key down, hold the Command key down, or click to the A key, marquee the top half, and flip it back to a fill. Now I have a font that I copied, and I'm just going to paste it right on the whole thing here. And you can see how there's a font right there, and if that's what the client wanted, then that would turn into a pretty cool logo, right? Okay, so let's just hit the E key. Let's hold Option and Shift so it goes from the center out. Did you hear that? Alt or Shift goes from the center out. Let me Control Z back. If I just grab it and hold the Shift key, then it goes from one edge. Well, that's not going to do me a whole lot of good. So let's go like this and hold Alt or Option and Shift and go from here, and it goes from the center out. And now I can kind of align it like this, just kind of sweetly, just like that. Shift it over a little bit to the right. Now let's hit the Direct Selection tool. Remember, all I have to do to grab the whole top half is either click here. That should be actually filled in there. Don't know why it's not. Okay, there's a little problem with that icon. When I close this and reopen it, it'll probably be fine. See, it was. Okay, so now I can grab the bottom because I clicked the radial circle. Whoops, I'm grabbing the wrong thing. I need to grab the bottom half. There's the circle for the bottom half. Now I could have done it by clicking in the layer palette, or hold Alt or Option and just marquee part of the bottom. Now I can grab the fill and just move it down a little bit and separate that. Okay, I actually would like that this whole word actually moved in, so I like where the R is in relationship to the snowflake. We're going to get the E to do the same thing. So let's now click the top and let's move that up and get it away from there. And now I could do a custom fit, which is what I'm going to show you. So now I'm going to take and click on the word Frostbite, which is a font still. I don't want that a font. Now I have to show you something. Okay, so if I take the T key, there's too much space between the R and the O as related to the O and the S. So if I click here and I have the cursor flashing between the R and the O, I can go Option or Alt, left arrow, and do you see how I can tickle that closer? See how I can move it closer or farther away? So I'm custom kerning that. Let's move the B closer to the T. So Option or Alt, move the B closer to the T. So now I'm getting that E to even look better. Let's move the T a little bit in like this. Let's move the E a little bit towards the T. So I'm custom fitting everything. Boy, do I like that. Let's move it back out actually, and that looks really nice. There's a problem though. Whoops, let me Control Z back. Whoops, I made a mistake because I hit a button. Let me Control Z back once, Control Z back again. There we go. Now, I did it again. I'm not, my finger's not holding the space bar. There we go. So now I want to custom fit this, and because it's a path, I can do that. Watch how I can click this little section right there, hold the shift key, whoops. I have to explain two things. When you're in a font, the font occupies a large space here. And if I hit the regular selection tool, you can see the bounding box for the actual font. Well, I don't want this a font anymore. I want this to be paths. So I'm going to go type and create outlines. Now it's no longer a font. Now I can't kern it like I was. Okay, I can certainly move the letters closer together. For instance, if I wanted the F and the R to move closer to the O, I would be in the direct selection tool, which I am, hold Alt or Option and marquee just a little bit of the F and the R. Now all I have to do is grab one of the centers of them, hold the Shift key, and you can see how I can move this in or out. I liked where it was, so I'm going to Control Z back. Okay, but I just wanted to show you that. Now I can go close to this and grab that little section right there, hold the Shift key and come straight down, and then maybe just grab this one and come straight down like that and custom fit that and have it look really kind of neat. Okay, I like that. I like the way that looks. I think that this should actually move down a little bit right there. So I'm moving that down and custom fitting it. And that's how you make image trace work. And that's how you make a font work with something like a snowflake. I'm going to grab these points here. I'm going to stop in a second, but you can see how I can grab all of these points here, click, and let's just move this up into the snowflake and do the same thing with the T and make it just a little bit more. Whoops, let me get close to that. I wasn't close enough. So let's grab this, grab that one point, hold the Shift key, move that up just to give it a little bit more creative edge. So there is my Frostbites logo with a snowflake that we used from an image using image trace, understanding what compound paths are and cutting this apart to make it work. Now, the important thing is when I click this back, everything that's in there is transparent. So you can put this over any background you want, which is really cool. Thank you. Hope that helped.